Well, thank you very much for being here this afternoon. My name is Gary Guadagnolo. I'm a director of research at EAB, which is a global higher education research and advisory services firm. Allison is the director of digital and technical services at Staffordshire University. Allison and I are here to talk about the 6 what-ifs of the modern student experience. So just as a preview, I'm going to ask the 6 questions, and Allison is going to answer them all and tell us what the student experience should look like. But I want to begin with a case study of sorts of an established industry-leading organization with a strong brand, unique engagement drivers, that was struggling with falling perception of value and a disgruntled client base as their costs rise. Indeed, we're talking about Disney. Now, don't worry, you don't have to throw any rotten tomatoes at me. The point of this session is not that we all need to be like Disney World, but I think we all can agree that Disney is an entity that's really obsessed with the experience of their clients and the people who engage with them as a brand. And indeed, really across the last decade, they were struggling with particularly people going to their parks. Costs were going up, the cost of the ticket, but the value was declining, and people weren't wanting to go there. The lines were really long. There was all of these frustrations that were playing out. And Disney, they did a lot to solve that. When people talk about kind of Disney's success and the reinvention of the experience at Disney World, the ability to bring 50,000 people a day back to the parks, oftentimes people focus on these technology interventions, and they really were incredible things about investments in data and apps and smart wearable technologies and creating this kind of ecosystem in which everything was talking to each other. And they really did deliver a customer experience that was going to adapt to and incorporate all of those needs and expectations. Now, don't worry, again, the point here is not that you need to invest $1 billion into creating something that is exactly like this. But I wanted to share with you was more about the story behind the story about what Disney did. So again, this entity that thought of really hard about what the customer experience was going to look like for them. They actually started with these what-if questions that I thought were really interesting in terms of rather than starting with this idea about the technology interventions in mind, what were the questions that they wanted to ask of themselves that might lead to that experience? And so questions about, what if we created more operational capacity through better use of customer data? Or what if the wearable technology enhanced the in-person experience rather than just enabling it? And I want to suggest perhaps we in the sector, in the higher education sector, are at a similar moment as we're thinking about these pressures around the student experience. Earlier this year, EAB did a survey of many of the senior university leaders that we work with, and we asked them to identify the top 3 risks facing their institution. There were a lot of things going on, but what was interesting is that really this final one on the far right, student consumer preferences, stood out as the leader in what was really driving senior leaders' worries at night. And I think this is really interesting because we spend a lot of time talking about kind of what these new student expectations are going to be like, particularly coming out of the pandemic. And the reality is that students, as we've talked about in many of the sessions today already, really are hyper-focused on what it means to be at a university, be a student in this kind of digitally informed economy and digitally informed world. And I think we probably haven't done enough in terms of asking ourselves some really tough questions based on new and emerging student preferences and student behaviors. So if 78% of Gen Z considers their phones to be the most important devices for accessing the internet, have we optimized our own online presence from our institutions, from virtual tours, student services websites, VLEs, for a mobile-first experience? We were talking in the last session about students watching their lectures on their mobile phones, but then the challenge of if this is the primary way some students are getting online, exams and other assessments, are those mobile operated as well? So a lot of pressures going on. And so what I want to propose here, and I'll tee up these questions here in just a second about these 6 what-ifs, but one of the ways we can think about delivering on what students want, what we think that they need, is by imagining where we want to be. And so I'm going to use that idea around the what if questions for each of these 6 areas of student experience. These 6 areas probably aren't new to any of you, but I do think it's helpful oftentimes to think about that holistic student experience, the student experience in totality that begins with the recruitment and enrollment experience, extends through all of the administrative tasks and hurdles that we put in front of students, the kind of social extracurricular experience, academics, well-being, and career. So I'm going to pose these 6 what-if questions. If we had a lot more time, I would walk through potential responses and some innovative institutions that I think are doing some really creative things in responding to these what-if questions. But thankfully, we have Allison here today who's going to share a little bit about how staff has been responding to each of these questions. So I'll share with these slides with everyone of a kind of QR code where you can download some things, and also have a couple of infographics that go through these 6 questions as well, so don't feel like you need to write all of them down now. But let me just walk through them and introduce them to you before turning it over to Allison. So the first of, what if every incoming student knew you understood them as an individual with unique interests and goals? And so the mental exercise here that I would encourage you to think about is, how would we answer that question, and how would we bring that to fruition on our campus? What if your students could complete administrative tasks quickly and easily from anywhere? What if your students felt welcome and connected from the moment that they enrolled? What if your students could access the right learning experiences at the right time to accomplish their goals throughout their careers? What if your students felt empowered to bring their whole selves to campus? And finally, what if your graduates could find engaging work and were equipped to easily navigate a dynamic job market? Now, no easy answers or no easy kind of pathways to bring all these things to fruition, but I'd like to propose these can be helpful prompts on your own campus. And again, thinking about perhaps in the model of what Disney did in terms of reimagining their experience for their customers, the people that they were serving, is that beginning kind of with these questions about what is the experience, what's this outcome that we're wanting for our students, and then working backwards to some of those solutions. And as you can imagine, none of this work is going to take place without significant updates to campus technology and the strategy for evaluating some of those solutions. And if you've been following the Staffordshire University story for the past couple of years, I really think they've been a leader in thinking about what that looks like, making the right investments, making some really important choices early on in their journey. And so to tell us a little bit more about that and some of their answers to some of those questions I just posed, I will invite Allison to the floor. Thank you, Alison.
Thank you, Gary. So, hi everybody. Great to talk about this today. It's been really exciting for Staffordshire. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our digital vision, and I'm going to plug it into what Gary's been talking about. It's quite transformative. It will transform the student experience, and in a way that will meet the needs of students of today, and just show you a little bit about the technologies we're using and some of our approaches. Okay, so this is our 2030 vision. Staffordshire University is a connected university. It's connected to its students, staff and its community. And this vision is about being an on-demand university, so 24/7, no matter where I am, our students feel connected to the university. And there's 4 kind of pillars that help to deliver that. And the first one is about being very data-driven. So the power of data is connecting us more than ever to our students, the students we have, our students of the future. Automation and AI, we're doing a lot of that. All our systems, data, processes and people will be connected more than ever, and freeing up some staff time. We'll have a look at that with some of the RPA work we've done. Very hyper-personalised experience for our students, and that's about a very tailored experience. When we have a look at our Beacon app, you'll see how we're delivering that. And really importantly is the digital skills aspect. So just making sure our students are equipped with the skills to go out into the big wide world and really make a difference. So how we're applying it. So I'm not really going to go into this, but I've circled 2 of the important parts of how we're going to be delivering our vision. Next generation student experience that's enabled by a next generation operating model. So that's about being very hyper-personalised, on demand, delivering functionality by a sort of AI and coaching to our students, being very lean and agile. So the first one that we'll touch on, and I'm going to tie these back to Gary's what ifs. Beacon is our, started off as a chatbot. It's now an app. We've sort of now no longer got any other app other than Beacon. So our students all use Beacon. It's sector leading. It's a coaching approach as well. So digital coach that can nudge our students. And I'll go into that a little bit. It's a strategic channel for two-way engagement, and it has deep chat functionality within it. It offers personalisation. Beacon knows what course the student's on, what module they're on, some of the characteristics. So the content that's coming out through Beacon to our students is very personalised to them. It's a source of data and insight. So some of the data we get out of Beacon is really valuable. We'll have a look at it. And it's continuously under development. We have developers committed to this. They have a roadmap. It comes from our students. They tell us what they want in Beacon. It comes from what the data's telling us and also what the university needs. And it's been built on 5 principles. It's about curating, so it's providing relevant content based on previous user behaviour. So we just want to deliver what's relevant to our students. So it might be, here's a job that's interesting to you. Here's a society that is recommended for you based on your interests. It's also supporting, so it's answering questions and helping with the day-to-day for students. So here's what your day looks like. Also coaching, so guiding students towards an optimum outcome as well. So that might be sort of guiding them to a lecture or guiding them to some self-study sort of thing, but supporting the learning. It's orchestrating, so it's carrying out some tasks, and this is where we go into the automation side of it. So, you know, automatic replacement of student cards, council tax letters, that kind of stuff. But really importantly, it's learning all the time. It's gleaning information from our students and using it to then optimise their experiences at the university. Okay, so this is what it looks like. I won't go into it too long, but importantly, and back to that vision, it's driving, it's being driven by data. So the tiles that you will see at the top is based on what's most popular, sort of thing. And, you know, these are our most popular ones. So it's just to give you a little look at it. So the second sort of tile along is the Beacon onboarding. And it's very simple because it is simple to use, and that's been the success of it, really. And, you know, we've got some fun stuff in there, like gamification. Beacon can tell you jokes, so it's kind of like a bit down with the kids, and has been really popular. So this is the success we've seen over it the last couple of years. You can see the usage is absolutely ramped up. And our most used feature is our attendance. We've now got attendance monitoring working in there. It's been commended by the UK&IE, and because it's a simple solution, and that's what we've tried to achieve with Beacon. So you can see the numbers are ramped up, 17,000 downloads, and those are our top questions that are answered. It's been absolutely invaluable during the pandemic because it's been one place to go for all content, so everything associated with, you know, an ever-changing, we've been delivering through Beacon. And this, I feel, taps into the social experience of the what-ifs and also the onboarding as well. It's been invaluable at enrolment when our students are coming on board. So I think that's one tick on Gary's what-ifs. Really exciting project, and this taps into the academic experience that Gary's talked about, and this is about replacing some of our mundane processes with robotic process automation. It's been a massive learning journey for us, but what it actually does, it's part of that delivering the next generation student experience with a next gen operating model. Big learning curve. We started this by working with a supplier, but learning as well. So a supplier created us an automation, we shadowed, and then we started creating our own. It's not the easiest thing to do, and there's been a lot of learning, but it's been really exciting. Digital by default. We now have a digital workforce that are freeing up staff time. We have, we've been doing this for about a year, and we have freed up 200 hours per week of staff time. So our staff can concentrate on our students and improving the student experience. And again, it comes back to that always on. So our robots don't take a break, they don't go to bed, they just keep working, sort of thing. So, so again, that's that on-demand thing, and it's removed efficiencies massively. And so that's the academic experience. This one is quite interesting. This is about looking at our support services. It's a customer service excellence project. It's probably go on to the next slide really and try and explain this, what this is trying to do. A lot of unis, you know, no different to us, have like lots of staff across the uni who deliver support services, and ours is very siloed. There's lots of places for students to go for services, and what we're trying to do is consolidate all of that. So we're looking at this very differently. We're taking an outside-in approach that focuses on the customer experience and what a student wants from those support services. Developing a detailed understanding of our customers, not delivering what we think they want. Consolidated, so we will have a smaller team that is very focused on customer service when we actually deliver all of this, and automate some of those time-consuming things. So our expert staff are spending time with students and making it effortless. So they've not got 6 or 10 places to go, they've got one. And making it measurable. You know, right now we're not great at understanding how good or bad we are at delivering customer experience, but by the time we finish the project, hopefully we will be. And doing some proactive stuff, using Beacon for FAQs, you know, just taking out some of that mundane stuff and putting it in the hands of our students to get support services quickly. It's a people process technology piece, and where we are so far is we've developed a minimum viable product. We call it a valuable product, and it's around the health and well-being, and then that taps into another one. So I don't know how many ticks I've got yet, but I think I've got a few. I've got 3. So it's about health and well-being, and I've got a picture here to try and explain why this is very innovative and why it's valuable to our students. So it's got a number of channels. So we are channeling the support for our students in the way they want to receive it, sort of thing. And I'm going to use a scenario that uses Beacon, so you can just get a feel for what we're doing. So, but our students can contact us through any of those channels to get customer support. I'll use a scenario of a student who's sitting in the flat, it's 3 a.m. in the morning, feeling very overwhelmed. They're a gaming student, they've got 3 assignments in, and they've got a tournament at the weekend, and they want to do the tournament. So they're a bit overwhelmed. So they open the Beacon app. Beacon's got mood tracking, start sending sad faces to Beacon. Beacon kicks in, starts a chat, and it's using personalised data there, so it knows the students on a gaming course, knows they'll have a tournament, sort of thing. So then starts to automate some processes. So Beacon asks the student, would you like an appointment to see somebody? And that can be done 3 a.m. in the morning, ready for in the morning, could come in and have an appointment with one of our staff. And a case is logged and an amount of information. So when that student comes in, talks to one of our staff, they've got an amount of information. It's very hyper-personalised using a common data model. Student has their call with the support person, and it's a case of time management. And they get some help, they go off on the bus, they're feeling really happy, open Beacon, put a smiley face in, and that's customer insight. So we're like, you know, and we're kind of going to use that insight to make things even better within Beacon, within CX. So what's next? So our next innovative project, this is a biggie, it's called GAME, and this is where we will undertake research into the effectiveness of digital interventions and student engagement, and ultimately improve student success. It's in its very early stages. I'll probably give you an example of where we're at with it. So what we're actually doing is working on Welcome Week. So we do find if our students come to all our welcome events, they're more likely to stay with us. If students are not attending welcome events, we know we're on a trajectory to losing them, and you've got to get them at the right time. So what we were doing is to start to introduce some digital interventions. So that's starting to nudge students to events, to things that's relevant to them, to societies. Because Beacon knows if you're a gaming student, so can push you to that tournament that might be happening on campus, and it's really exciting and could save somebody really as a student to us. So that's GAME, and we're going to put it across the student journey. We started with Welcome. We contemplated you started recruitment, but we started and looking at retention and now how we can do that. So that's the last one, and I think that taps into the academic experience, it's the Martini one, the right experience, that one. So yeah, so thank you.
And I told Alison we'd spend the last couple of minutes of putting her on the hot seat, as it were, with a couple of questions, but I actually wanted to touch on this question around GAME, because it's so interesting. It's kind of this, in some ways it seems like an evolution from the early days of Beacon. It was a bit more of a nudge to now more of a, I don't don't know, something even more of an intervention. Can you talk a little bit about that evolution of why you decided to go into this particular direction and take that a few steps further?
So yeah, and this is about starting to really get into that nudge technology and using that hyper-personalization. So student now knows about your course, your module, it knows about your characteristics as well, and knowing, you know, a number of these things that can then start to proactively nudge students to an outcome sort of thing, so it can improve their, potentially improve their success at the university and in life as well. So that's how Beacon's really come along, sort of thing. When it started off, Beacon was a chatbot, you know, and being really effective at it, but really come on and getting into that AI and sort of machine learning aspects now.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that I think is interesting about the staff story is that clearly you all had, at the institutional level, a vision for where you wanted to go and made some, I think, really sort of smart investments in some ways from the top down. But a lot of this is also about the student voice and making sure we're not just doing what we think students want, but what they actually are asking for. How are you incorporating student voice into this entire project and all of its manifestations?
Okay. So our students contribute to the backlog for Beacon. We run it, but we started off with competitions. It was our most entered competition. It was an Amazon voucher for about £250, but the list of potential features for Beacon was just so invaluable. So we take information from students in that way for Beacon and how we develop it. When we were doing the CX one, looking at how we were going to deliver that very rich customer experience, we did design thinking sessions. So we took students, I don't know if you've seen design thinking, it's where you empathise and look at the pain points on a journey kind of thing, and then you start to ideate to make it better, and then to start really getting into doing the, and I can't think of the word, but prototyping, that's the one. Thank you to my colleague. So that way, and then bringing students back in to look at those prototypes sort of thing and how we're delivering that experience. So the health and well-being one that we've talked about with the Beacon all the way through, our students are looking at that and they're helping us to improve it and get it right because it's an agile project. So that's another way that we do it. And GAME as well. We have 2 research students who are working with us on GAME and really getting into that data. So when we, you know, to help with the digital interventions and look at the success of those digital interventions as well. Mm-hmm.
What have been some of the lessons learned in terms of prioritizing where you will be spending limited time and resources out of all the things you could be doing? Why and how did you pick some of these specific interventions?
Yeah. So okay, it's about return on investment, I think. So we, you know, and that's something we've not been great at as a university, doing these projects, but really understanding what the benefits are, benefits to the students, benefits to the staff, and making sure that a department who wants to work with us on a project is actually ready for it. So student services, for instance, have they got processes in place? And we work with them on design thinking, on service blueprinting and that, and getting processes ready. So business readiness as well helps, and we just prioritise. So it's never a no, it's kind of a, you know, yes right now or maybe a bit later kind of thing. So that's how we sort of establish what we want to do. And we work with sort of executive and students on a little board who start to look at these potential projects, look at the return on investments and help us to prioritise.
Great. And last question for now. So we've been talking a lot about digital investments, but one of the interesting lessons or challenges, I think, even in the post-pandemic world, is blending both the digital campus and digital tools with what's going on the physical space of campus. I know you were earlier today in the staff's London-based campus as well. Can you talk a little bit about the interplay between what's going on in the digital world with a lot of these interventions and tools, and then the physical campus as well?
Yeah, sure. So yes, we have a campus on Olympic Park. It's a very digital campus. I encourage you, if you've not seen it, have a look at it. We were the first uni to launch an esports program, and it's delivered down there. There's an amazing arena at the back where we're delivering that. We have we specialise in sort of games, cyber down there. We started off with one unit. We did it 2 years ago. It was a big risk. The growth, it was like taking our product to a different market kind of thing, and not everybody wants to study in Stoke-on-Trent, so it was taking a different product to London, and it's growing. and we started off on one site. We've got 3, so we've just very quickly, doing them really quickly, but amazing digital experience in there. We've just put a building up. We're about to open it next year. It's a Catalyst building, very focused on apprenticeships, but the digital wow in that building will be something to look at. So, you know, keep a lookout for it. It's got some incredible functionality in there, and we will use it as our blueprint. As we transform our campus, we will use the Catalyst blueprint across the campus. So some really exciting stuff. And that goes back to the vision about the next generation environments that we are putting in across the uni.
Excellent. All right, I think we managed to land this plane on time, Alison. So one word in close. Encourage you if you want to, I have a couple copies of this infographic on these 6 what-ifs I highlighted earlier. We have more at the EAB booth downstairs. You can download these slides if you want to scan the QR code. It's also down at the booth. And also, EAB is hosting a little networking and drinks reception at the end of the day today. So to reward yourself for a full day of conferencing, certainly come have a drink. But Alison, thank you so much. It's incredibly helpful to hear kind of all of the great things going on at Staffs, and we'll look forward to hearing a further update next year as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Thanks, everyone.